Well, hello, Jigna. And I think
And
today is an apple a day.
an apple a day. I wonder what that's all about.
Well, it seems that we're getting close to getting ready for back to school, I think, at this point, or some have gone back to school. So maybe it has something to do with that.
Just maybe. So let's talk a little bit about that. What's in store for us today, Jennifer?
Well, I think we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like, some of the trials and tributes of our kids going back to school, if you have that going on, and they're at home school, but on a uh, distance education method, and how those of us who are still looking for a job might want to think about going back to school too, and what some of those options are out there, especially that are free or very low cost.
Yeah. I believe Shiv Mohan, one of our earlier guests, had talked a little bit about this is a good time, to invest in some education. And you can actually do that, at least initially, to see if it's something that's of interest to you on a free basis, and then see if you want to invest some money and time, more money or more time into it. So we will talk a little bit about different opportunities and options that are out there that may be free to the viewers, as well as some other certifications and classes that might be of interest. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about our kids and going
Yeah,
back to school.
back to
It's so
school.
different. It's state by state. It's different. It's some states are in person, some are a hybrid, some are all virtual. It's just a mixed bag of tricks at this point in
It
time.
is. It is.
And it's I can empathize with the educator and the school systems, because it's been a daunting task, and it's a very quick turnaround requirement, right? They're having to make decisions on the fly at times on whether they want to open up the schools and how much money it makes. Some schools just don't have the means to
Mm-hmm.
allow for social distancing, right? Or distance learning, in a sense, in-person distance learning. So those are some challenges that they're facing, and we understand that completely as parents. And we're looking at it from the parent side, and everyone's just it's hard for everyone.
It is. I would say I have a senior, so it's a little heartbreaking. Um,
Uh,
I felt for the seniors who ended their year last year in this pandemic mess, and it's kind of a heartbreak. I did not imagine I would have a senior starting in this either. So that is a whole new bag of tricks to try to figure out how we're going to get around some of those things too, and still have an amazing senior year in high school, as well as just everybody else getting back. And like you said, this kind of halfway method of going back and figuring out how it's all going to work out. And I would say I've spent the last 2 nights on different calls, hearing from the principals of the schools and Zoom calls, and some of them, and like you said, some of the teachers are doing like a meet and greet over WebEx or Zoom, and some of them are really good at it, and some of them are still learning. And so about how to use some of the, like I just turned the beeps off, everybody. So there's all sorts of little tricks and things to do. So I'm gonna put a plug out there. If you're an educator and you're watching this, anyone, or you know someone you think they need a little extra help, I'd even be free to volunteer give you some of my volunteer time to help you out on some of these things. Because I think even just Jigna and I've learned a lot in video conferencing,
yeah.
but as we've been doing this podcast, so there's little tips and tricks to learn here and there. So I know I'll tell anybody too, if you're seeing things you're like, ooh, I don't know if I like how this looks so far for my kids, just be patient, it'll get better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a lot to learn, and for the educators to learn this so quickly, the technology so quickly, and we commend them for having to learn it. It's not, they didn't ask for this, right? They signed up for in-person classroom, in-person education, and this is a whole new world. So we completely understand how difficult it is. So just to piggyback on what Jennifer was saying, one key trick to Zoom, or one thing to just remember for educators, is that you have the option to mute all and unmute all, or an individual. So I highly recommend you set your settings to mute all when they join the room or the conference, because that's going to help you guys out a lot. Everyone's going to be on an even playing ground. And I've noticed that as well, being on some Zoom calls as well as other video conferencing calls. So take advantage of that feature as a host. So be sure to do that. And if you aren't the host, let the host know that they have that option. And instead of them asking everyone to comply, it's maybe better to just police it in this case.
There you go.
Yeah.
I will say too, my kids are all going to be using a online learning platform that was developed quite maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. I think that was for elementary through high school education, called Canvas. So it is an online learning management system programming that they're going to be using. So hopefully that will help in managing some of the classroom content, and it's designed to push out content and help track and log students in and that kind of thing. So just like if you're in a job and you have a learning management system that you've been going to classes through, like that job, then it's the same kind of method too. So I told my kids, this is a good thing to learn now, because when you get into a job one day, it might be the same kind of thing. So who knows? So I would also tell parents that as you're looking at these online education for your kids, don't be afraid. You can't break the system. So don't be afraid to get in there and help play with it. I know too, a lot of the schools have put tutorials out there for you about different things. So hopefully, don't be afraid. You can't break it. So that's really what I always tell people. And if you do break it, then you've done someone a service, and you can send a message to the school, and they can then tell the company, because then it's probably something someone else will break too.
You're just a tester is all. Right. You're just testing the system.
Knew something you would put on your resume, right?
Yeah, we were talking about that just the other day, Jennifer. You're a really good tester, and the software developers would come to you and test just to see if you can break that software or whatever it is. But I think there's a lot of value in that. Being a good tester is a skill, and not everyone is great, because you have to look at all the different scenarios that are out there and really apply different methodologies to see if there is a different outcome. So.
Well, and I think that's a great segue into about learning for just us as the grown-ups right out there. And that's if you're not working, or even if you are working and you're thinking, I don't know if the industry or the job I have is going to be around as we still have things changing and moving, that maybe this is a good time to start thinking about how can you up your own education at the same time. So I think I brought with me a little book I really like. It's called Never Stop Learning, and the author's name is Bradley R. Staats, if I say it wrong, or Staats, S-T-A-A-T-S. So there it is. So from the Harvard Business Review. And, I think I love this quote on here. It's saying, stay relevant, reinvent yourself, and thrive. And I think right now, how more important is that? To stay relevant, reinvent yourself, and thrive. I think that's a great thing for everyone to be thinking about.
Yeah, well, we're reinventing ourselves with this podcast, right? And exploring our new skill set and expanding our knowledge. And we encourage everyone else to do the same. Absolutely.
So, and I just want to talk about a little bit, this book was written way before the notion of a pandemic. And so, but I think there is something to be said in here that he talks about. And I just kind of want to read a little piece of this to you all. And one of the things he says in Never Stop Learning, that in the foreword, he talks about the behavioral scientist and operations expert, Bradley R. Staats, describes the principles and practices that comprise dynamic learning and outlines a framework to help you become more effective as a lifelong learner. The steps include valuing failure, focusing on process, not outcome, and on questions, not answers. Making time for reflection, learning to be true to yourself by playing to your strengths, pairing specialization with variety, and treating others as learning partners. And we'll put that up for everyone too, so you can see, but I think that's those areas are so important, even for children in education, thinking about that, helping them get through this time, as well as yourself, if you're learning something new, or even if you're learning something new because you are in a job and it's for your job. All of those things I think are really important. And I think those are really great. And I think valuing failure is a big one there too. So, because we've made a lot of mistakes in the last 6 months, right?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you know, we make mistakes over and over again. If they're not the same ones or new ones, right? And valuing that is a hard thing to do. I feel like there are certain fundamental behaviors I don't think we're taught, and we should be taught. You know, the failure part of it is definitely a big one. Making mistakes is a part of life, and how to accept failure and process failure. Not even accept it, just processing it is so important. And I just wish there were more of those learnings in school, out instead of out, you know, being dependent on whether it's the family that teaches you. And because to be honest, if the family doesn't know, they're not going to be able to teach their child. So external factors, or the village, as they say, definitely helps in raising.
Yeah. So I think these are all, you know, I recommend, you know, you can probably, you know, read a book like that, or there's other books and other people out there that have similar thoughts on learning. Yeah. And I think just take on, also, not only you might fail in learning something new, focus on processes, like you said, and not outcomes. And really, I think another one is learning to play to your strengths and reflection time. And I think that's going to be important as we start to talk about where are some of the tools and things that we can use to learn from, and where we might want to go in that. So let's get into what tools are out there. What can you do that, because if it's free, it's all about it's
all about free right now.
Yeah.
All about free. Take advantage where you can, and we'll be sure to provide some of these resources on our social media platforms, as well as our website in the future.
Absolutely. So let's start with, so these are all online systems that you can log into and register for free products out there. And I'm gonna start with the first one as being Coursera. So Coursera has classes that other people have created, things they've done, as well as with universities. And you can register to audit a class. In fact, I just finished auditing a class, an agile class. And it was with a professor from, I think, the University of Virginia. I think I got that right. And so you took it. It's as you hear, those of you who have kids going back to school, you've been hearing a lot about synchronous and asynchronous. It's an asynchronous class, and but it was great, you know. And it had little quick videos. It had questions to answer, quizzes, things to remind you, and it gave you a schedule, which I really liked. It gave me like, this is what you should spend today through that tomorrow. So there are lots of things out there on that. And if I wanted to take the class to, like, let's say I wanted to work on a certification of some sort, I could go and pay for the class, and they vary in prices, but they have those options out there. So that's a really good one. There's also even things all the way from like how to play the piano, I think, are out there. So
sign me up.
Yeah, so that's a good one. Jigna, you want to pick one out of the hat we have?
Yeah, so this one is more specifically for the younger audience. It's the Khan Academy. I actually had this downloaded for my son, and we were kind of playing around with it a little bit. So for the older kids, the Khan Academy option is really great, and it's free. So there's a lot of educational learning tools that are out there that are great to supplement with what the schools are teaching right now. So if you do need a little bit of time to take that conference call and your child is on a brain break, Khan Academy has some great, what do you call it? The games that offer learning. So, and in conjunction with Khan Academy, there's also PBS Kids that has some really good learning games that are out there.
Yeah, especially when they finished all the work the teacher has given them, and if you're trying to work or get something done, if you can give it to them, I'll let you play a game.
Yeah. It's better than just having them watch cartoons, right? So utilize what's out there. And of course, we encourage limiting screen time, but there are times you have to take that.
Yeah, I think the screen time rule is probably out the door for this year.
At this point, right? Unfortunately, it kills me because, you're growing up, you're told, too much screen time is just not a good thing, but then you're so dependent on it now, all of your kids are. So I'm wondering what kind of impact this is going to have, 10 years from now.
Well, I think it will on all of us to some extent. So, yes, right.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't even have screens when we were growing up. I mean, there was TV, but most of my time was spent
Tube
outside.
TV. Yeah.
Yeah. And we didn't wear helmets, riding bicycles, and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
It's amazing we're still alive. So Gen X. Okay, I'm going to pick another one I like is edX. And this one is great because it's got things from different universities like MIT, Harvard, Berkeley. You've got things from Boston University, a variety of different universities out there who publish things out there for you to have. And I really like because they've got, when you first go in, they'll tell you some of the most popular subjects. They've got computer science, data sciences, business management, language. And I think language is a good one too right now. So thinking about where are some of the languages you want to be at, and not just even foreign languages, but let's say you want to brush up on your own grammar skills. Maybe we've gotten sloppy in how we write emails and use a lot of shorthands and comments and things. And I think sometimes when we do that, we forget where to fix our punctuation and some of those things. And especially as my kids ask me questions, I'm like, oh, I need to go back and remember what that means. Because that may be a trick too. If you're homeschooling, you might need to brush up on some of that too.
Yeah.
Or your math.
Yeah. You know, I should be better at math. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, don't ask me to help you with geometry. I have to tell my ones in high school that are in geometry. Nope.
Although I did take calculus in high school. I don't know how that happened, but I don't know if I'm utilizing much of it at this point.
There you go. Well, it's not, I mean, it is required in some ways. The logic thought process is there. So I guess if I focus on process, I could be good at that. On the outcome of getting the right answer when it comes to math, especially like if it's geometry.
Hey, I'm killing second grade math though. I got to tell you, I am acing that thing and even getting extra credit points.
There you go.
I'm giving them to myself. But there are also a lot of educators, some Ivy League schools that have their online free offerings. Jennifer, do we want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so if you kind of more of an extension of that edX, because a lot of them are there on the edX as well, but you'll find Stanford Online has some free courses you can take, and you'll find those too, like in Coursera, like some of these that you'll find them overlap in different places. Harvard, Yale.
Yeah, Harvard Extension is one of them. So is Open Yale Courses is another one. So, and UC Berkeley also has one. So I also encourage, if you are taking these courses, to go ahead and put that on your LinkedIn, that you have taken those courses, because it's going to just make your resume look good, and make sure you put it on your resume as well that you have taken these, and the ones that make sense, right? The ones that will help enhance your resume.
Absolutely. So another one that I really like too is Allison. It is ALISON.com, and they have free online courses that help you, a lot of them too, towards certifications. So if you're looking for different certifications, that's a great one to go and take content for too, to get ready for those exams. And you can find those on a variety of the programs too. Like I think, I can never say it. Udemy, did I say it right? I think.
Udemy, yeah.
Yeah, they also have that, and so does Coursera. A lot of them will have too, where you can audit the class. Like so Jigna was saying earlier, like if you don't know if you like something really well, you can take the audit, and then if you decide like, oh, I really like that and I do want to go get the certification, then I can pay for the courses and then go further. So that's one way to do it, which I think is a nice way where you don't have to commit money up front and determine if that's where you want to go. And I know Jigna has some thoughts on certifications.
Yeah, so with certifications, there are so many different ones out there depending on your wheelhouse or your areas of expertise or the industry that you maybe you're looking to pivot and maybe change your career at this point in time, and or want to do a side hustle for that matter, right? So I just want to point out some certifications that you may want to look into if you are looking at maybe a project management style or program management style position. And that's not just in IT. I know a lot of times people think that project management is specific to IT or construction. Those are the majority of the openings that are out there for these specific types of jobs. However, project managers are everywhere in every industry, every walks of life. Event planners like myself, I'm a project manager. Actually, I think I'm a project manager on Speed really, because it's a go, 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 go. It's much faster, much quicker. So is a professional development, right? So every industry, every job can benefit from a project manager, and the certification is really going to look good on your resume.
I
So
think
that's
that
a PM.
Yeah, so I think the project management stuff that goes to that quote earlier about focusing on process,
Right.
because that's a lot of it. Because the outcomes, there is an outcome you're looking to get after, but as we know in life, everything changes. So if you can manage process, and if the go, go, go and things change, that's really a key skill to have. So as you were saying.
Absolutely. So PMP certification. So if you want more information, you can go to PMI, that's the Project Management Institute, for more information on that. And then there's the event planning certification, which is the CMP certification. As there are a few other ones. There's a strategic meeting manager certification. They actually now have a virtual event management certification. So you can actually go to MPI's website. That's Meeting Professionals International. So there's PMI and then there's MPI. So don't get those mixed up. And if you do, both their certifications are going to be great no matter what. So just maybe you'll stumble onto something that you didn't know you were interested in. And then there's, of course, for nursing, you can go for the practitioner's degree if you're wanting to up your game a little bit more. For paralegals, of course, you can take your LSATs, and then get to your law degree if you have the knowledge. You probably have more knowledge than a lot of the young lawyers that are coming out from university. So why not take advantage of that and just take that next level and invest in your future, as well as supply chain and logistics. There's this CSCP certification, and there are just many other options that are out there. I would do some search, like a Google search or Yahoo search, and just see, just type in your industry and type in certification. There's also for realtors, there's real estate. Of course, there's the certification you need to take to practice to be a realtor, but also there is property management certification that will just up your game if you want to be an investor and want to manage some different real estate properties. So there's a lot out there, and it will just set you apart. So just remember, the more investment you put into education, and I understand it's not for education doesn't come easy for everyone. A lot of us have to work hard to even sit an hour to read or listen. So I am one of those folks that it does take a lot to sit there and actually move forward with it, but it's worth it. So, just an hour a week. Shiv Mohan was talking about this as well, as just 1 hour a week, and just see if you like it. If you don't, if your learning style is not about reading a textbook, maybe it's videos. Or maybe it's something different. Maybe it's doing. There are internships that are out there that are free. You're sitting there right now doing, just doing resume searches or job searches. Maybe you spend 20 hours of your week, 10 hours of your week, just learning some sort of a trade and volunteering your time. So then there are also apprenticeships that are out there as well, in addition to internships. So just look for those while you're, it doesn't hurt to check, right? If you don't want to do it at the end, at least you know.
Well, and I'd say too, like you're saying, the different types of learning styles. I think a lot of the different tools that are out there, they've done a nice job. I will, I really like that Agile course I took. Mm-hmm. It had a video and it had the text on there. So if I wanted to read the text, I could read it, or I could listen. And they were short. So they were like 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Like it would made it nice and easy to get through just a little piece here, a little piece there, a little piece there, a little piece there. So which is really nice, especially. So you could either take a lot or just do a little and walk away and then come back. And because they did it in nice little spaces, it was easy to finish something for 5 or 7 minutes and then be able to walk away and then be able to pick up the next piece of content from there. So there's lots of, I think Absolutely. More and more are doing that as they've learned that kind of how we learn and how our brain processes and takes information, especially when we have more information flying at us today than ever before. So
there's a lot, and here's another trick to, just to keep in mind is if you're wanting to learn a software. So right now, what I'm trying to do is while I do a lot of the graphics for for this podcast, you might have seen on the graphics on our social media. I'm learning. I had a little bit of a background on Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, but I was a little rusty. So I'm actually using making this, these graphics and posts to sort of brush up on my skills. So maybe you have children that need flyers made for a fundraiser, or you're wanting to make a scrapbook. Maybe you do a virtual scrapbook, just learn some new tools. And a lot of these tools have a 30-day trial, right? So take advantage of that. Learn what you can in the 30 days. And then if you feel like you want to move further, then you can invest more money. But you have 30 days. Even some of these video conferencing sites, right? There's the Adobe Connect that allows for a 30-day trial, I believe. And there's other ones. I believe Zoom has a free trial version. There are things that you can do for free right now. You should be absolutely taking advantage of.
Yeah, and another one I would throw out there that's a really random one. So if you're in the tech side of things and you've heard about people who you read it, you're like, what is AWS? What does Amazon Web Services mean? And everything. If you actually go out to Amazon's site, there is a free course that they offer. And if you go out to their aws.amazon.com /training, you can start to learn about, they have some free digital training about what is AWS. Learn with hundreds of free self-paced digital courses on AWS fundamentals. So whenever you hear terms out there and you're like, why is that so popular? Why do I see that a lot in job searches? What does that mean? Just do a search out on Google and see, or wherever you search, whatever engine you use, and see what comes up. And then you might be surprised that the vendor itself that creates that software or that learning base can teach you about it. So it gives you something else to know, especially if you're going into an interview. Maybe you meet, like I think Fred Harris told us, like he meets 80% of the job requirements and what they're looking for. He applies for it. So let's say you do that and there's that 20% you don't know a whole lot about. Go out, you can probably find something about it so that if you got when you get the interview, you can at least talk to that with some knowledge and not be blindsided. So there's lots of stuff out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of what Jennifer was saying, Jennifer, I'm not sure if you remember when we were in conference meetings together. You may have seen me on my phone quite a bit, or I pay attention and then I'll look down on my phone or do some search. I might have my laptop with me. What I'm doing is when I hear a word or a phrase that I'm just not familiar with because it's an industry phrase or whatever it is, I'll look it up right then and there. So I know what the reference is, what they're referring to during that, the time that it's needed the most. And I've done that with big words growing up. Once I had access to, internet on the go, I do that even still. There are times that there are words or phrases, industry phrases. So I was with an IT company for a long time and they used a lot of terminologies that I just wasn't familiar with, at least initially, agile and waterfall methodologies, whatever it might be. And those are PM project management references. But it was daunting to me at first. So I just Googled, like, hey, what does agile mean?
That doesn't surprise me since you told us you use your IMDb
quite a bit.
Yeah, in the movie theater with your camera, your phone flashing light at everybody while they're like, who's that person?
That's my way of learning. So everyone has their way. A lot of people just.
She likes the just in time. You're just in time. Do.
There are some people who just I've heard speakers say, hey, make a note of it in the back of your mind. And, when you have time, go, I'm sorry, but there's no back of my mind. It's gone. I have to do it right then and there. Otherwise I'll forget. So there are times, and I try to be mindful. I don't like to be disrespectful in terms of, not giving someone their time when we are in meetings. So I'm mindful of that, but there are times I will have to just, and knowing that if I am quizzed or questioned what I'm doing, I can really say to them, hey, listen, I'm just learning about this while you guys are talking about it. So I have some real time data to sort of connect with. So yeah.
Yep. There's nothing wrong with just in time. So I'm old school. I like to write it down with my pen. There's something about that cognitive memory to if there's a word or something, a term, if I write it down, and even if I don't have time to look it up right then, at least I wrote it down, it will help put it in the back of my mind to go look it up. But that's,
The just in time is probably the millennial side of me.
There's nothing wrong with just in time. There's a lot of things in the world today that are done just in time.
Absolutely. And so let's go ahead and shift over to education, the education houses that are out there, the colleges and universities that are offering, just your traditional style of courses and degrees. They are now sort of shifting to the online options. What do you think about that, Jennifer?
Well, I think it's good because it's not new. Everybody thinks it is, but I think I mentioned this a couple times when we talked that when I got my master's in 1998, it was in distance education and to focus on how to take universities, schools, businesses to online education. And we called it distance education at the time. But and with the premise of being that people were actually probably sitting not even in the same building with each other, but now we see with businesses and such, you may be taking, that's why we've kind of turned it now to online education. So, but yeah, I think I think for some universities, I will say this, I've heard friends of mine who have kids who are going to be freshmen this year, or even if they're somewhere in the middle of the college year, and their kids were going, let's say a couple of people I know who had kids who were going to school in California. California's not going back to school in person at all. The parent said, you know what, you're going to take a year off because I'm not paying the same tuition fee for you to sit at home to take that class. And so I can understand if tuition fee was pretty steep and now you're not in person in front of a professor, like why they might feel that way. And I will tell you too, I didn't quite understand that either. Like how could a price tag be so important to like a university setting as well? Because I went to Texas A&M. It's a great rate for a public university, Texas, and such. So I got a great education for a great price. However, when I did go to a Harvard program a couple years ago, and I sat in a Harvard business classes with professors, no offense, A&M professors, I love you, but I saw the dynamics and the difference. And of course, there's a smaller room as well, and the way the whole thing is done, but it was phenomenal. So I understood the price tag you're paying for, but I don't know. I'd be curious to see the dynamic of some of those Harvard professors, if they can recreate that in the distance space, which I think if they've learned the tools well and how to do it, they possibly could. But I can also understand a parent's perspective of maybe I'm not going to pay $25,000 this semester for you to sit at home and watch videos of a professor. It's tough.
Yeah, not everything translates well into virtual and vice versa. However, we have seen a lot of successes with people who have spent the time to really learn and adapt to the new world that we have. So don't knock it till you try it, I guess. And in addition to what Jennifer's saying around the schools and colleges and universities, maybe you want to do what Rodney Dangerfield did. You remember that movie Back to School? Yeah, go with your kiddos. They'll love that.
I keep threatening that one.
Well, there's another one that came out just recently with Melissa McCartney, where she went back to school with her daughter as well.
I haven't seen that.
I'll have to remember the name of it.
You're gonna look it up here in a second.
I'm gonna IMDb it right now while we're talking. But the thing is, there are opportunities for higher education, and what's nice is that many universities are actually waiving the some of the requirements tests that are out there, like the GRE, which I feel like is actually a good move on their part, because they're also struggling to make tuition and make money, and not that education this is what I struggle with is having a higher education be so expensive, and with things being so a lot of resources being free, they do need to step in and make sure that they're offering a higher level of education if they're going to charge for it.
I mean, and that's always been something I'll say as educators, as you said that, as I've always said in the learning and development world, being in this for 20 something years now, that as even in professionals in business, like people can learn anything from anywhere. I mean, how many times have I fixed my washer or dryer or something, or even my air conditioner by going to YouTube and finding some, like the exact same model, and some guy showing me how to put something here and there. And I'm like, ooh, look, I did it, So that is also learning. Not that I'm going to put HVAC on my resume, because I don't want to pretend that that's what I know how to do. But you can learn anything anywhere. It's how you curate content to make sure it's really good. And I will say that is the one thing about the universities or these sites that you go to that we've mentioned. They've done a nice job of curating content for you that you know is some of their best in class, and you know where it's coming from as a legitimate resource. So it's, you know, something to be mindful of, because I think as learning professionals, we've learned that we have to be one of our roles now is being curators of really good content. And the other thing I'd say with that too, Jigna, is about going back to school, you know, and that price tag. I think part of it, though, the concern for me, like I've always wanted to get my PhD. And it's been so long since I've taken the GRE. It'd be great to not have to take it and get in. But then it's like my luck, so maybe I need to do it, would be I apply, I get in, and then as soon as I start, I get a job. And then I'd be like, well, how am I going to, you know, do all this?
So in my research, I actually, that's a really good point. I have seen that universities and colleges are now really catering to the busy working professional as well. So I really like that. So a lot of these graduate degree classes, or, you know, masters as well as PhDs, are really, they are a lot of times 6 to 8 weeks, and you only have to take one class at a time. And they're sort of, you know, really, they're sort of work your own pace, and the times they're offering are reasonable to where you can take it in the evening or on the weekends and whatnot. Some of them might be recorded. So there are some really great opportunities for the people who are still working and or maybe working in the near future. So don't let that be a factor in you determining whether you want to do this or not. One class for 6 to 8 weeks, that's doable. I feel like that's more doable than, you know, a lot of times I think when we were going into college, you have to take 3 courses or 12 credits to be considered, you know, full-time.
A grad student is, nine credits to be full-time.
9 credits, or so this seems to be a lot more digestible, at least in my opinion, and these are online courses, which is great. So you're not having to drive and spend all that extra time, because you have, of course, you have family and they're a priority, and you have kids that have to do it. So maybe you study with your kids, you know, I have my son, you know, a little desk set up. So maybe you said, I'll look at setting up my desk right next to his, and
a study pod.
We'll be study buddies.
So did you find out which movie it was that?
Life of the Party. Miss Melissa McCarthy is in it, and I saw it a while back. It came out in 2018, and it's actually a pretty fun movie. Good time pass, as I was saying before.
I thought you were going to talk about Old School with Will Ferrell.
Oh yeah, that one's good too. That's a classic.
Yeah, all I can think about is I'm streaking.
You're my boy, Blue. Yeah. Yeah, that I don't know if that actually happens in real life. If it does, I think a lot more people would be going to college right now.
Yeah, I think it's all pretty much fantasy Hollywood.
Right.
Well, I think another area too to focus on is also, like we talked about earlier, a little bit on languages. And one that I want to talk about that I think is a great, there's a lot of ones we already mentioned also offer language courses. One I like though personally is Duolingo. And my daughter is in a Spanish class. She's been in Spanish since she was 5. So she's, I don't know, she's going to be in 7th grade, so since kindergarten. So this is her 8th year into Spanish in a Duolingo program where she speaks immersive language in there. And I grew up on the border. I think we talked about that before. But I guess, so I understand Spanish pretty well, but not as good as I used to. And so I've had to, like, that Duolingo has helped me to help her even. And yeah, it's a good too, because it helps you with structures of sentences and reading sentence structure in a different language. And they have Spanish, French, and I don't know, a whole bunch, Portuguese, German, I think, Russian, Chinese, you name it, so it's, I think, you could find it and put it in there. So, and they have a free version, and then I think you can pay for a more advanced version if you want to. So again, like a lot of things, if you really like it, really get into it, want to get more advanced, then you can pay for more. What else, Jigna?
Not sure. I feel like there's just there's a lot out there, guys.
I know what we forgot.
Yeah.
What about podcasts? Like,
listen to our podcast. That's all you need to do.
But there are education ones out there too.
No, we're good. We're good.
We're good.
Just here. Just stop here. Just keep listening over and over again. We'll be good.
So, but I would consider podcasts as an education.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you know what? I love all the NPR podcasts that are out there, and they're just silly. Sometimes they're silly, fun learnings, and then sometimes they're very serious learnings that are really good party topics. And
well, I love like a way with words. I learn things about different word origins. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And then there used to be, do you remember Car Talk?
Yes.
I learned a lot about cars through Car Talk. And of course, there's some of those game shows that are out there. And then Freakonomics, and Guy Raz has a really good episode. But other than NPR, there are some education specific.
Well, yeah, because like BBC also has a good series of podcasts as well. And then if you even want to talk about like TEDx or TED Talks, even I would put in those categories of learning as well, content from that, especially like leadership topics and such as well. But from there, so always great. And I also think sometimes some like BBC does a good thing about kind of historical ones. So when people reference something, like we've been, hearing a lot about like comparison to the Spanish flu. Like I know there's a podcast out there about the Spanish flu. It was kind of interesting to listen to because it kind of gave me some perspective of like what people were really talking about. From again, looking from where content's curated from, probably a good credible source versus like sometimes I find weird articles that I'm like, I don't know who this is that published this or what it is.
And there's your Harvard Business Review as well.
Of course. And and Harvard Business Review, I will say you can download, like, I think if you follow them on one of the social media platforms, you can read 3 articles a month for free or some other stuff. But then after that, you have to pay for it. I do pay for the Harvard Business Review. I don't remember what it is. It's $150 or $60 a year. And then you get the magazine and unlimited access to their podcast and their, articles online and such. So it's another great, that's probably one of my favorite geeky.
Yeah, and your local library has a lot of audiobooks.
Oh yeah, the library,
that place. So, a lot of us can't really go to the library right now because we're wanting the social distance. So they actually have, many of them have an app that you can download and just check out books from there. And they have audiobooks there, or they have just electronic books, that you can read. So why not take advantage of that? That's free. And there's movies there that are free if you don't have access to, cable or Netflix or something like that, and you want just to veg out, and everyone deserves to veg out a little bit. So just take those resources. And
I think the big thing is learn something, right?
And if you're a know-it-all, why don't you just start one yourself, a course yourself, and teach us? We're here to learn.
Or call us and we'll put you on the show. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we want to hear from you definitely. If you have, if you just want to share your story, we just want to hear from you. So yeah, feel free to give us a ring or actually just email us, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I think we have one last thing to do though, because our biggest piece of knowledge we get every time we do this. This is my favorite knowledge slip, although I've got some weird ones lately. You go, Jigna.
All right, I'm going to go since I already started. All right, let's see what this says. Okay. A purpose is the eternal condition for success.
Ooh.
Hey.
That kind of goes with what we just
talking about.
Talk about. There you go. I like it. Okay. Oh my God. See, I get the weird ones. Before you can see the light, you have to deal with the darkness. Probably the darkness is 4 kids going back to school with online education and 3 of them in high school, and this sucks.
Oh my God.
My friends.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's not, I don't want to be you. I feel like I'm struggling with 1 child, and you have 4. So good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you. So hopefully the darkness is nothing that dark. I don't know.
And before we leave, we just wanted to thank our sponsors, Circuit City, where the service is state of the art.
Jigna, I think they went out of business.
Oh, they have great service.
Oh, well, I hope they're paying us something. No, they're not. Oh, well. All right, well, we'll see you on the next episode. Ciao.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.